Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined as I am every Friday by Pat Fitzmaurice and by Derek Brown. Fellas, it is Halloween. Happy Halloween to you and to everybody listening. Two of us decided to dress up in some kind of small costume here. For those watching on YouTube,
what are you, Worm? Since we're going to dive into that, huh?
I'm Clearly, Clark Kent changing into Superman. I've got the Superman uniform under the unbuttoned shirt. I've got the Clark Kent glasses on. I think everybody could have probably have guessed that. Fitz, of course, is
Rey Mysterio,
his favorite wrestler. Debro is coming as I don't know.
I couldn't find anything to do, man. I have a blow-up costume, and I was telling Fitzy before here. I had a blow-up costume, and I can't see to do the show in a blow-up costume. I thought about it.
Debro showed up as Lex Luthor because he's bald.
I mean, yeah, it's fine. I'll be the villain here. I'm happy with it.
First of all, no Pat Fitzmaurice. This is a mystery analyst. But shout out to our good friend Mauricio Gutierrez for the mask. A couple of years ago at the Fantasy Football Expo, Mauricio, a great fantasy analyst from the great nation of Mexico, he brought to the Fantasy Football Expo like 24 luchador masks and had the idea of handing them out to people, and everyone was wearing them as we walked from our hotel to the Friday night party 3 blocks away. And it was great because I knew who was in the group, but I didn't know who was standing next to me at any particular time. Anyway, but yeah, at the end of the party, I handed the mask back to Mauricio, and he's like, "No, Patricio, this is yours, man. This is a gift." So, yeah, Mauricio and his wife Gemma are like two of my favorite people in the world. I know Debro loves both of them too. Just
love
great
them to
people.
Death.
Yeah, so hope they're doing well. Thank you for the mask, Mauricio.
Shouts to Mauricio. Shouts to Debro for making excuses and not doing a costume.
Yeah,
shouts to everybody for enjoying Halloween here. Debro, Fitz and I were talking a little bit yesterday on the show. You got to ask every year, what's your favorite candy?
Oh, geez. I'm more of a sour candy connoisseur, so I'll just go boring. I'll go like Sour Patch or something like that over like a trendy answer.
I can't stand sour candy. Chocolate or nothing for me.
Yeah, well, you know what? You go by texture and stuff like that too.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So like that's a big part of what, you know. I could have just put a bag over my head and cut some eye holes and been a Dolphins fan. I thought about doing that, but you know, I didn't want the comments to be lit about the fan base.
No, that's a good transition. Let's talk a little bit about that Ravens-Dolphins game. Obviously, like the only real compelling storyline here is Lamar coming back. The Ravens, when healthy, are a much better team than the Dolphins, and this game largely went how you would have expected, 28-6. We can probably put a nail in the coffin of the Mike McDaniel tenure in Miami. Everything kind of falling apart there. But Lamar was back, and this was largely, if you told me he was healthy, the Lamar I would have expected, one that's not running a lot to try and, save some of those legs and, first game back, getting back into a rhythm, from the hamstring injury and everything, but just looking like the great passer that he is. 204 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 of which went to tight ends, 2 of them to Mark Andrews. Those were his only 2 catches in the game. 1 to Charlie Kolar, 1 to Rashad Bateman. Zay Flowers doing what he usually does, which is leading the team in targets and yards, but not getting in the end zone. And Derrick Henry, I would say looking more like Derrick Henry. It was a bit of a slog. There was a couple of long runs later to get him to that 119 yards total. He did not get in the end zone. Early on, it felt like he was getting bottled up a lot more. But, Debro, this is the Ravens offense more or less that we were expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I think this looks about like what you were expecting walking into the year. Now, I will say, if anybody watched that game, Lamar's clearly not still 100%. Like, he's not. He looked, I'm not saying a tad bit slow, but tentative to run. He didn't look his usual nimbleness in the pocket. Now, he was very good as a passer in the 4 passing touchdowns. Like, if you started him versus other options on your roster, you're very happy with that. But I will say Lamar, like, he still not 100%, but it was a good matchup. He played well. My other takeaways from this game, man, like, I think Henry looked fine. Like, if you bought low on him with Lamar out, you're very, very happy. And I think better days are ahead for him in the rushing attack. The one guy I want to talk about here, and I saw both sides of the coin going into it. I ended up ranking him as a top 12 tight end for the week. Mark Andrews, dude, like, for everybody out there, if you sat him, it wasn't wrong process. Outside of Detroit, that like he has done nothing this entire year. I know he got the 2 touchdowns and that carried his day. Still only 22 receiving yards. So you walk away from this game feeling probably no better than you did with him on your roster as you did entering the game.
Yeah, Fitz, what do you think about Andrews? Because, I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, you had a good fantasy day if you started him, but just 3 targets, 2 catches. It was a blowout, but it wasn't a blowout for the whole game. It wasn't until the second half that the Ravens pulled away and could maybe lean on the run a bit more. I would still, I mean, if I had to pick like a binary decision, concerned or not concerned, I would still be concerned to be a Mark Andrews manager.
Same. Touchdown or bust, kind of the same thing. And we saw, like, I was more excited about the usage for Isaiah Likely than I was for Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely has better chance of giving you a big play. And, the 2 touchdowns for Andrews, it would have only been the 1 touchdown and the 1 catch had Derrick Henry done what Derrick Henry normally does and get into the end zone on, 3rd and short at the goal line. Mm-hmm. Got stopped. They threw to Andrews in the next play. So if Henry scores that touchdown, Andrews is left with the 1 catch and you're like, thank goodness he scored the 1 touchdown to save me from disaster. Instead, it winds up being a pretty good day for Mark Andrews. It's just, yeah, man, he's still in the streamer category, but I think like I'm going to probably start ranking Isaiah Likely like right behind Mark Andrews, like 2 spots apart most weeks.
Jackson only threw 23 times, so of course nobody had like a huge target total. Just worth noting there. Yeah, honestly, the Ravens have been so bad on 3rd and 4th and 1 this year that like you say like, oh, what Derrick Henry normally does, and he gets in the end zone on 3rd and 1. Like I don't know how much that's going to happen this year. Their offensive line gets no push in those situations. It's been Lamar or other quarterbacks of like. The offense has not looked good in these short yardage situations this year. So we'll see how that goes. Just quickly, D-Bro, anything on the Miami side? Or I mean, Again, from the overall perspective, this team is obviously like kind of at the last legs of this era of the Dolphins. But for fantasy purposes, Jalen Waddle continues to be really helpful with Tyreek Hill out. And obviously Devon Achane is a good, fast player. But besides that,
I mean, so I'm glad we kicked this to the other side of the ball here because I want to say if everybody that watched that game, this game should have been competitive.
Yes.
If the Miami Dolphins didn't crap the bed every time they got in the freaking red zone. If that didn't happen, this game would have been close. And the box score, Tua didn't play amazing, but he played a lot better than it's been given credit. And the other thing, dude, we got to get out of here with like the refs and the officiating this year, the tripping on Ollie Gordon. Get the hell, dude, I'm sorry. Like, what are we talking about here? The fact that that's not reviewable, it was a penalty, and you felt the momentum shift in that game because that wiped off a giant play. Like that would have sent, you had that play on top of Jalen Waddle. He had like probably like 130 or 140 receiving yards. So for everybody watching that game, this game could have been much closer than the box score lets you believe based off of if the Dolphins didn't crap the bed in the red zone. The Ravens are still a defense that I'm not saying they played bad, but all of these turnovers and the lack of any kind of continuity or efficiency or execution in the red zone for the Dolphins, I think moving forward, the Ravens are still a defense we can target because the Dolphins could run on them. They were throwing on them. Jalen Waddle should have had a much bigger day, and this game should have been much, much closer. But yes, like all of the vibes around the Dolphins are horrible. Every play that went sideways, Mike McDaniel, his entire vibe on the sideline is terrible. Like, I think the only reason he still has a job is because it is just a clown show there. And if you get rid of McDaniel, I think they just fully go off the rails and everything. And it's just a dumpster fire to finish the season. Although it's not a dumpster fire, like it's still a dumpster fire right now, but it would be a spectacular one if he is gone.
Fitz, the tripping call was heinous. It was just a horrific call. I would dial back a bit on like that being the difference and like costing all the momentum. It was a 1-score game at halftime, and then the Ravens pulled away in the second half, like well after that play had already happened. So I don't know how much that was like the reason for the blowout. It was a horrific call, of course. The Dolphins messing up continually when they got inside the 30-yard line, to me, is more of what made this game not competitive when it could have been if they had simply just executed when they got in close.
Yeah, they're not a good team, but I don't think they're quitting on Mike McDaniel. I mean, they had the blowout loss to the Colts in week 1, but since then, they've only really had their doors blown off in one game. And I'm not even going to count that game last night where, yes, it was a decided loss. The game, the outcome wouldn't have changed had that tripping penalty not been called, or had they not strangely overturned that catch by Devon Achane that I thought was kind of a weird overturn. I
still thought that was a catch too.
Some pretty poor officiating that went against the Dolphins, but it would have made it maybe a 10 or 13 point game at best rather than the 22-point game it was. So, but I don't feel like the team is quitting on Josh. I don't know. I don't think they're throwing in the towel. And for fantasy, you just like that they're sort of a streamlined. You're using Achane and Waddle, and that's it. But you can use those guys pretty dependably because they're both really busy these days.
Not that it has a fantasy impact, but the weak sauce of the running backs coach for the Dolphins getting in Ollie Gordon's ear over the tripping penalty. Like, dude, what the hell were you watching?
I have to assume he didn't see the play and just assumed the refs got it.
Then don't comment on it. If you didn't see the play, then just keep your freaking mouth shut. It's really easy.
More often than not, though, the player is going to be like, "It wasn't me, I swear," and then you go back and look, and it was him. Like in this case,
Ollie was right to clap back at him.
He of course was, but more often than not, I can see why the coach would be mad if he didn't see the play because, like, usually the refs. I mean, not that the refs are right.
Don't yell at a dude if you didn't see the damn play. It's pretty simple. Yeah. But anyway.
Quick reminder for everybody that all of our weekly consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. There are 4 teams on bye this week. It's the Browns, the Jets, the Buccaneers, and the Eagles. Let's get into the Sunday early slate. Bears at Bengals. True or false? Caleb Williams and the Bears offense will emphatically bounce back against a terrible Bengals defense. Fitz.
True. I love the setup for Caleb this week. In fact, I think it's kind of a perfect storm. The Bengals' pass defense is bad. They've allowed the second most passing touchdowns and third most passing yards. They've given up 7.8 yards per pass attempt, third highest mark in the league. And their pass defense ranks 31st in DVOA, which is actually better than their run defense, which is 32nd. That has all been with Trey Hendrickson, their best defensive player by far, one of the better edge rushers in the league. Hendrickson has a hip injury. Hasn't been practicing this week. Even with Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals pass rush has the third lowest pressure rate in the league. If the Bengals can't generate a pass rush, Caleb could just pick his teeth with the Cincinnati defense. And here's the cherry on top, Worm. The Bears are without their 2 best cornerbacks, Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, both on injured reserve. Having your best cornerbacks when you're going against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, suboptimal. So if Joe Flacco's sprained AC joint doesn't throw too much of a wrench into the Bengals passing game, the Bengals should be able to shred the Bears pass defense and make Caleb Williams have to stomp the accelerator to try to keep up. So this could be a really interesting shootout type of game.
Debro, you have been among the more vocal Caleb Williams, I won't say hater, but faders since he came into the NFL. Do you see this as an opportunity for him in this offense to bounce back, just given for no other reason than the matchup that they have in front of them?
I think the matchup, and I wrote this up in the primer, it can be a 1-week cologne to kind of gloss over the play of Caleb Williams. And I love how you phrase this, Worm. Will it emphatically bounce back? I don't see emphatically. I think the Bears offense will be much better because of just who they're going against. But this also could be a really good opportunity. Like, they could just run the ever-loving crap out of the ball. Like, they have 2 guys they can lean on in the ground game. Swift has been good. We'll see if he plays. I know he's on the injury report and back-to-back DMPs, but I'm still expecting him to suit up. But this could be a game where, the Bears defense is horrible. And they're injured. And the Bengals can put up points if Joe Flacco's shoulder, complies, or if Jake Browning can throw an accurate ball. I know that's a lot of ifs, but I think this game can be a shootout. It can be close. If I'm Ben Johnson, you let Caleb air it out to an extent, but I'm running the ball. I want to strangle the clock in this one too, because the Bengals can put up points, and you don't have the defense to sit there and stop them from doing that. So I think this offense is going to look better just by virtue of who they're playing. But I honestly, out of this entire game, I I think that Kyle Monangai, my biggest takeaway is Kyle Monangai is absolutely flex worthy. Both the actual running backs in this game, Samaje Perine and Kyle Monangai, depending on your options, you could run on both these defenses. You can put them in flex plays as flex plays and strong flex plays this week. Both those guys are getting almost equal shares of the backfields.
I put that word emphatically in there on purpose because I think everybody would agree they're going to bounce back, but to what degree it happens. Let me ask you on Swift. So I in a guillotine league, which by the way I ask about my guillotine league a lot, not because I want them to help me, but although that is nice, but because guillotine league you need to get it right that week, and so it's that added kind of desperation and emphasis on getting it right in the moment, I just think is more helpful for thinking about these week-to-week start-sit decisions. Because in other leagues, it's okay, if you get it wrong, it's tends to be not the end of the world, especially early in the season. So at any rate, in my guillotine league, Debro, you just said that, talking about DeAndre Swift, assuming he plays, would you rather start him or somebody like Nico Collins going up against Denver, but without Pat Surtain?
Swift
would be the choice.
Not even close.
Not even close.
I don't want to depend on CJ Stroud versus the Denver secondary, even without Surtain.
Okay. Yeah. No, if Surtain was playing, I wouldn't have even brought it up, but I wanted to ask with that big piece missing.
Are you the same mind, Fitzy? Swift? Or are you going?
Yeah,
Nico?
I think he's a little safer. I'm not quite as emphatic about it as you are, Debro, but I probably would play Swift myself.
So Swift is a top 12 running back in expert consensus rankings this week.
Yeah.
I mean, he's RB12 in half-point PPR. So the rankers are, obviously assuming he plays, again, it's a bit of a question mark.
Who do y'all think wins this game, by the way? I think the Bengals are live to win this game.
I think the Bears win.
I like the Bengals as home dogs.
Yeah, I like the Bengals here.
I think the Bears just had a bad day last week, and they've been on a 4-game winning streak before then. The Bengals defense is terrible. Yeah. Flacco, had some iffiness this week with the shoulder. I just think the Bears win this game. I don't know how much they win by, but I think they win. Let's go to Vikings at Lions. Debro, your boy J.J. McCarthy is back. What are your expectations for the Vikings offense with McCarthy back at quarterback?
Dude, I'm worried about JJ in this one. And look, this is not so much it's a JJ take, and what kind of quarterback player are we going to get? Dude, he is about to get put through the freaking gauntlet. I'm glad that he's fully healthy. He's going to need every bit of his mobility behind what is turned into honestly, you can make a case for this is a bottom 5 offensive line. They're playing bad, man. Minnesota since week 4 has allowed the 13th highest pressure rate. Good luck against Detroit, who since week 4 they have the second best pressure rate. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be standing over JJ for a decent part of this game. Detroit's secondary has been playing well. I don't want to play JJ. If you're in Superflex, fine, depending on your options, but low end QB2, this is definitely going to be a really good litmus test for not a good matchup any way you freaking slice it. And KOC is going to actually have to look like KOC of yesteryear. He's had some suspect moments this year, man. So I'm really worried about JJ, no doubt.
Before I toss to Fitz, Debro, just JJ McCarthy's QB 22. Too high, too low, just right in the rankings.
That's about right. I think there's a lot of low end QB2 options that I'm just not in love with this week with bad matchups. I've got to see where I've got him at QB 22 as well.
Okay.
I've got him ahead of Michael Penix. I might move Geno Smith ahead of him just considering how bad the Jaguars are. But that's about the realm JJ's living in right now. It's not pretty, man.
Fitz, what are your expectations this week?
Not great. I've got him at QB 24. I think Debro focused on the right thing, the offensive line. So they don't have center Ryan Kelly, who's still out with a concussion. I'm not sure if he's eligible to come back this week or next week, but I haven't seen anything about the possibility of Kelly playing this week. So I assume he's out. And then both of the tackles, Christian Darrisaw on the left, Brian O'Neill on the right, they're both dealing with knee injuries. Now, Darrisaw, he's the key guy. He didn't practice or did practice on Wednesday, didn't practice on Thursday, but Thursday might have just been a maintenance day for a guy who's had a torn ACL and MCL. And Brian O'Neill has been getting in limited practices. So it seems like they're both going to play, but we don't know how effectively. The Lions secondary has been injury riddled, but it's getting a little healthier. I know they get Terry and Arnold back this week. I don't know. I'd love to tell you that we are going to see the J.J. McCarthy who was running around and ripping some amazing throws in the second half of that come from behind win against the Bears in week 1, and not the J.J. McCarthy who threw 2 interceptions, fumbled 3 times, and took 6 sacks against the Falcons in week 2, but who knows?
What do you think Jordan Addison fits? What do you think about him for this week? Because we have never seen him on the field with J.J. McCarthy before.
Right. Really good player. So, like, I've got him ranked as, I want to say, a mid-range wide receiver 3. I think I've got him maybe around 30.
I got him at 30. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, I've got him at 26. Yikes, that's too high. I got to move him below Debo and Wandale. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think you could play him just because he's good. Just like bet on the good player, but I wouldn't feel wildly confident about him.
By the way, while we were talking, we already talked about the Dolphins game, of course. Chris Greer, their GM, is out. A mutual parting, according to Ian Rappaport. So he's been there a very, very long time.
Wow.
They got some pieces.
Greer's gone, but we don't have news on McDaniel? Wow.
Nothing that I see here. Yeah. Yeah, no other changes to the coaching staff as of now.
Chris Greer said, I'm outie. Chris Greer basically told Ross, I'm outie after last night.
He's
like,
been there
done.
a long time. I wonder what this means for trading some of those defensive players that might be of interest to folks. So, all right, let's go to Panthers at Packers. Josh Jacobs did not do much on the ground against Pittsburgh, although, of course, he did have the touchdown to save his fantasy day. Now he faces a Carolina defense that had been looking improved against the rush, but was just run all over last week by James Cook, one of the better running back performances we've seen this season by any individual player in that game against the Panthers' run defense. So, Fitz, I'll start with you on this one. Will this be more of a return to Green Bay running the ball, or are we in for another big day from the Packers' passing attack?
I mean, it's probably going to be balanced early, and then maybe the Packers start to lean on the run if they start to build a big lead that the spread suggests they're going to build. But the Packers is almost a 2-touchdown favorite. So Josh Jacobs is playing through a calf issue, and he's only had 13 carries in each of the Packers' last 2 games. His snap shares the last 2 games, 55% and 53%. And in every other game, Josh Jacobs' snap shares have ranged from 65% to 88%. So Packers have been giving Emmanuel Wilson a little more run, and he's actually done pretty well. 11 carries for 61 yards against the Steelers last week. If the Packers build a big lead, maybe they let Wilson and Chris Brooks salt the game away late. So I've Jacobs ranked RB7, which is right on consensus. He's not a guy I really ever want to fade, considering how Matt LaFleur just force feeds him at the goal line. He has 9 rushing touchdowns. Jacobs is still one of the few guys who's in Jonathan Taylor's area code in the touchdown category. I just think Matt LaFleur always wants to run the ball. Packers are the 4th run heaviest team in the league, although they're only 18th in pass rate over expected, like minus 1.1%. So they're only throwing slightly less than a normal rate. But yeah, Josh Jacobs, when will it not be a good environment for him? Pretty much always.
Debro, you can answer the question, but I want to frame it a slightly different way. If I force you to pick one of these 2 players that you have to rank above consensus, would you rather it be Josh Jacobs or Jordan Love?
Ooh, I think Jordan Love. Only because the Panthers' pass defense has relented since week 4. And to Fitz's point, this all comes down to, and I think what your thoughts are on Jordan Love is, can the Carolina Panthers push the Packers offense? If they can't, they're going to turtle. They're going to run the ball. It's going to be gross. Whatever. You're going to see a lot of Jacobs, whether inefficient or not, probably a good bit of Emmanuel Wilson. I kind of lean that if, and this is a giant if Carolina can keep Bryce on the move and keep him clean, and again, I said this is a giant if, the Packers have actually been a pretty decent pass funnel. Now, part of this is they get up on teams and then they're throwing to come back, but their pass defense is giving up a decent amount of production. Like, since week 4, we're talking about a pass defense that's given up the 10th most passing yards per game, the 6th highest passer rating, and the 2nd highest CPOE. So, if Bryce can take advantage of that, which has been like a pass defense that has taken a small step back, now Micah Parsons is going to play a huge role in that, then yes, Carolina could push them and we could see more Jordan Love. So Jacobs is not a guy like Pat talked about, I'm ever going to fade. But if you were to tell me like he has a good game but not an amazing game, and like there's guys that like Kyron has a better game, James Cook has a better game than him, Kamani Vidal, like any one of these guys that are in good matchups or high totals and stuff have a better game than Josh Jacobs, I won't be necessarily surprised.
Today's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is top rated, probably because there's so many promos and so much to bet. If you're doing some fantasy research for Sunday, don't forget to check out these players' odds to score on the Hard Rock Bet app. And if you want to ride a hot hand, look at the Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub. Fantasy Pros gave Josh Jacobs an A grade in our consensus running back rankings this week. He's reached the end zone in 12 straight games against the NFC. You can bet those streaks and find more insights any day of the week on the Hard Rock Bet app. And for you sports bettors, if you haven't tried your first bet on Hard Rock Bet yet, there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get not only your winnings, but $150 in extra bonus bets. Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit. Next game here, guys. Broncos at Texans. Bo Nix is the number one quarterback in fantasy across the past 2 weeks by a decent margin. Where are you ranking him this week against a superb Texans defense? And what about RJ Harvey, who is coming off of a 3-touchdown game, but it's one in which he still only got half the touches J.K. Dobbins did. D-Bro, starting with you.
I've got Bo Nix at QB 18. He has been so matchup sensitive over the last, basically the entire season. So do I want to rush out there to play Bo Nix despite the hot streak against Houston since week 4? They're allowing the second fewest yards per attempt in CPOE and the lowest passing yards per game and the lowest success rate per dropback? Heck no, man. No way. And do I want to play RJ Harvey coming off a 3-touchdown game, which he turned almost half of his touches because he got 8 touches into touchdowns? No. It's just Sean Payton is still Sean Paytoning. He played 27% of the snaps. Like, it's awesome, and I would love to sit here and be dancing into perpetuity about RJ Harvey, but again, he's just not getting enough volume. It's just a fact. So, sorry, I was going to go ahead, Warren.
I was just going to ask if you like the under in this game, because, you talked about not wanting anything to do with strike.
I do.
The line's at 40.5 on Hard Rock Bet.
I like the under. I really like the under. And I've got RJ Harvey, because I know this was part of your question too, at RB 37 right now.
Okay. Fitz, what do you think? Bo Nix, I believe, is QB 18 in consensus rankings, which is aligned with what D-Bro said. And Harvey, I think, is about RB 35, if I remember correctly. Do those numbers sound right? Are you also kind of, even though it's the lowest total of the week, leaning towards the under?
I'm leaning towards the under. I'm surprised it went from 39.5 up. I thought it might go down a little. So, yeah, anything under 40, I love. I've Nix ranked QB 19, and I think I'm also at 37 for Harvey, so a little below consensus. Look, man, we know this 2-week run for Bo Nix has been pretty fluky. Like, he was playing poorly for most of that game against the Giants 2 weeks ago. He stepped on the gas late because they were trailing big and had a couple of touchdown runs in that game. And then last week he got to face the Dallas defense, which pretty much turns every quarterback into Tom Brady. So it's not going to be as easy against the Texans. They're giving up 11.5 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, fewest in the league. They've got the lowest opponent passer rating in the league by far. They've allowed the second lowest completion percentage, only 58%. They've allowed the third fewest yards per attempt, 6.3. So, yeah, not really excited about Nix. And as for RJ Harvey, I'm glad the touchdowns are keeping him on the radar, but you just can't comfortably start him in fantasy. He's played under 30% of Denver's offensive snaps in 4 straight games, and he has somehow scored 4 touchdowns the last 2 weeks on 14 touches. It's a really nice parlor trick, but not the sort of production you can count on.
Fitz, I want to ask you, because I asked D-Bro about DeAndre Swift versus Nico Collins. Where are you ranking Nico Collins this week? This wasn't one of the questions I prepped you for, but he, again, no Pat Surtain, but this offense just against that Broncos pass rush. He's wide receiver 17 in ECR.
Wide receiver 17 is where I have him too.
Okay, so exactly.
Wide receiver 18 for me.
Okay, so you guys are basically right there. Let's go to Falcons at Patriots. We can go kind of quick on this one just because it's a player that has burned a lot of people this season, but maybe some signs of life from TreVeyon Henderson this last week, possibly, or if we're being optimistic here. Rhamondre Stevenson missed practice on Wednesday. I forgot to check again to see.
Missed practice Thursday also.
Okay, I thought he might have, but I hadn't written it down. Yep. So Stevenson not having practice yet. It's Friday morning. Be sure to check his status later in the day. But if we think that Rhamondre is limited or maybe even missing this game, D-Bro, what's your interest level in Henderson this week?
I mean, a lot. I think I'm probably going to bump him up to like an RB2. I will say to everybody, look, we can all run away from it. People are going to hate it. You're still going to see Terrell Jennings. If Rhamondre is out, Terrell Jennings is still going to get work. And so if you're in deeper leagues, you need to pick him up. And I'm not saying that TreVeyon Henderson will not lead the backfield. I'm not saying that we shouldn't believe in him and stuff. But even last week's big breakout game, TreVeyon Henderson still continued the same things that we've been seeing for the entirety of the season. He had 6 yards before contact per attempt last week. He still only forced 1 missed tackle, so 10% missed tackle rate and 1.5 yards to contact per attempt. So it was encouraging, but if you look underneath the surface and you pop the hood for a second, he's still not breaking tackles. And so I don't know what's going to change on that. Like I want to be hopeful about it, but again, it's Mike Vrabel, and I think we should still have a little bit of
TreVeyon fumbled
trepidation.
last week, which means he's going to get 20 carries this week. That's a good sign.
Well, yeah, if we're
Vrabel's
following
book.
the Vrabel math, that fumble wasn't his fault. It's everybody else's fault. We use that for Rhamondre.
Let me ask you this, D-Bro, because you said you'd move him up to maybe even like an RB2 range if Rhamondre's out. If Rhamondre plays but has been limited all week, and by the way, the Fantasy Pros Are They Playing tool gives him a 22% chance to play Rhamondre Stevenson, so keep an eye on that. Obviously, more news will come out, maybe even by the time you're listening to this. But if he does play but has been limited all week, how high would you move Henderson? Because Henderson right now is RB38, so it's a pretty wide gap from where he is in ECR to where you would consider ranking him if Rhamondre is out.
I mean, I'd have him somewhere in like the low end, probably like high end RB3 range, just because Vrabel doesn't want to give him a high snap count. So if Rhamondre is healthy enough to play, I think at best you're probably looking at like a 50-50 split, or maybe we see 3 backs get into the mix. Maybe it's Rhamondre, Terrell Jennings, and TreVeyon Henderson. As much as people don't want to see that, I think it's a possibility.
Fitz, what do you think about Henderson this week?
Right now, I've got him at a wide receiver 35. If we're recording this on Friday morning, if Rhamondre Stevenson doesn't practice today, he's not going to play. And I would propel TreVeyon Henderson up to 17th. I would have him right behind Jalen Warren, right ahead of the slumping Travis Etienne, and ahead of J.K. Dobbins. And Debra, 10 carries last week for TreVeyon Henderson. I don't really care what the missed tackles forced and yards after contact per carry is in a small sample size like that. What had me excited last week was that Josh McDaniels finally gave Henderson some outside runs rather than just slamming him in between the tackles. And the outside stuff, that is TreVeyon's bread and butter. So more of that, please. That's what had me excited. I don't really care about how many missed tackles he forced.
I mean, that's fine, but over 53 carries, his numbers are still terrible over the whole season, Fitzy.
Yeah, it's still 53 is a pretty small sample size, dude. And again,
okay, so when we get to 100, is it still bad, or are we going to believe it then?
Again, we've been seeing a lot of inside runs with Henderson, and that breaking tackles on inside runs is not really his thing, man. Hopefully they'll tailor the game plan if they know Rhamondre is going to be out.
I mean, I hope so. I'm just saying I don't have a lot of faith, and I'm saying that TreVeyon hasn't played good this year. That's all.
Let me ask you this, Fitz, in transition to our next game here, 49ers at Giants, because I want to ask about Tyrone Tracy. He's RB16 in consensus rankings in his first game since Cam Scadaboo's season-ending injury. So based on how high you would move TreVeyon Henderson, would you move him ahead of Tracy, or is Tracy somebody that still would be ahead of Henderson for you?
No, I've got Tracy at 15. Okay. So I've got it would be, if Rhamondre is out, it would be Tracy at 15, Jalen Warren at 16, and TreVeyon Henderson 17. So yeah, I mean, Tracy was the Giants' lead back in 2024 from week 5 on, and he averaged 13.2 PPR points per game, which was something like RB21 in fantasy points per game. I think we see something like that again, but maybe with slightly heavier usage, since the Giants don't have Malik Neighbors anymore like they did last year. In the 4 games before Cam Scadaboo got hurt, he was averaging 22 touches a game. So I think Tracy is probably going to land somewhere in RB2 territory the rest of the way, but maybe with a little more ceiling than he had last year, because I think they need him a little more.
Debra, what do you think? Is Tyrone Tracy at RB16 too high, too low, or just right?
It's about just right. I've got him a shade above that. I've got him at RB14, and this comes down to Pat's right. I think he's going to probably flirt with 20 opportunities between targets and carries and everything. And the San Francisco, I still think this is a good matchup for the Giants offense just in general. The 49ers have not been a fantastic defense. They're not pressuring the quarterback. They're vulnerable versus slot wide receivers. Their run defense is pretty pedestrian, man. Since week 4, we're discussing a run defense that's given up the 9th highest yards after contact per attempt and the 13th highest yards per carry to zone runs, which has comprised 62% of Tracy's rushing volume to this point. So Tracy's going to have 20 opportunities. He's a mid-range RB2, and honestly, I won't be surprised if he finishes this week as a low-end RB1. If he gets 20 opportunities, it's an average run defense, and he scores once. That's possible this week.
What about rest of season? Because Fitz said something like an RB2 would be kind of his expectation going forward. Is that about what you expect, Debro, rest of season with Scadaboo out?
Yeah, I mean, rest of season, I've got Tracy at RB20. Like, I think him, Rico Dowdle, Chase Brown, it's kind of an interesting conversation. That's about the area code I think he lives in.
You can let Autopilot manage your fantasy football lineup automatically so you never have to worry about last-minute changes. Auto-swap inactive players and ensure your lineup is always optimized even when you can't be online. Take control with the flexibility to approve lineup changes via email or let Autopilot handle everything. Stay ahead with My Playbook Autopilot, available now for Fantasy Pros Premium subscribers at fantasypros.com/myplaybook or on the Fantasy Pros app. Try Premium for free right now by claiming your 3-day trial of Fantasy Pros Premium at fantasypros.com/premium. Next game here, guys, Colts at Steelers. Fitz, I'll start with you here. Would you rather start DK Metcalf or Michael Pittman Jr. in this game? They are ranked close together in ECR. At least they were when I put this question together. Let me check to see where they are now. Yep, they're back-to-back. Wide receiver 15 and wide receiver 16 in half-point expert consensus rankings. Scoring, DK Metcalf or Michael Pittman Jr.?
I have Pittman wide receiver 12 and Metcalf wide receiver 13. So both defenses stink against perimeter receivers. Slight edge to the guy in the better offense, Pittman.
Debro?
I've got a wider gap. I've got Michael Pittman at wide receiver 10, and I've got DK at wide receiver 17. I just think the Colts roll in this game. I don't understand why they're only favored by 3 points. Michael Pittman. The other thing is
somebody's looking ahead to my second question here. Which
dude, I'm trying to set you up here. But the big point for me is I think we're not giving enough respect for Michael Pittman too. I posed this question out on Twitch in our streams earlier this week and on YouTube live streams, and I kept asking people, where do you think Michael Pittman Jr. is ranked this year in fantasy points per game? Dude, he's wide receiver 10. Like, Daniel Jones is playing good. The Steelers' secondary is dog water. Since week 4, they're giving up the second most receiving yards per game to perimeter wide receivers. Pittman's gonna eat in this game, dude. So, like, it's not that I hate DK, but, like, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers right now. Like, he's very limited as a quarterback. It's all short area opportunities for DK. Colts secondary is not good. I'm not saying that they are, but if you were to tell me, like, which guy I want to start, it's emphatically Pittman over DK for me.
So the second question I had in this game is, explain like I'm 5 why the Colts aren't a bet of the year level smash at -3 against Pittsburgh. Like, it is Hollow Weekend, so maybe Daniel Jones turns back into a pumpkin. I don't know. I just don't see any other way where the Steelers are going to stop this offense. Their defense has been horrible all year, and this has been a historically great offense, and we're halfway through the season. Like, again, barring Daniel Jones taking a huge step back, there you have to give some legitimacy to this offense at this point. Also, at the time I put together this question, this is one of 5 games with a total over 50 this week, which is a lot. I think that might have dropped to now it's only 4 games, but still that's a lot. To be at that level for this week. So they're expecting high scoring. I don't get how the Colts are going to not win this game by a touchdown plus, let alone just a field goal. Fits.
Yeah. Worm, you are an AFC North fan. You of all people should know what it's been like with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. They routinely play up or play down to the level of their competition. They win games they aren't supposed to win, and they lose games they aren't supposed to lose. And that has been the Mike Tomlin Steelers for the last, 7-8 years? Like, I agree that it seems like the Colts should roll in this game, but I have a personal betting policy. When a team that's somewhere between decent to good, which I still consider the Steelers decent, if they lose a home game and then have another home game the following week, I'm not betting against that team. Like, it seems like when a team lays an egg at home, then stays at home for their next game, they come out ticked off and play a good game. And I will sometimes try to target spots like that. Case in point, the Vikings earlier this year. They got humiliated by the Falcons at home in week 2 on Sunday Night Football. The next week, they hosted the Jake Browning-led Bengals, and I smashed the Vikings in that game, and they just completely smoked the Bengals. So I'm not going to bet the Steelers this week because I do think the Colts are the far better team, but I'm not betting against the Steelers in this spot either. I'm in a couple of pools where I have to pick every game against the spread, and I have split my 2 bets on this game in those 2 pools.
That's all fair. I don't have a lot to push back on you against, except to say that, like, I think the difference between this Steelers game and the Steelers that we've typically seen under Tomlin is that this defense is terrible, and like that defense has kind of led them to some of these sloppy, like surprising closer games than you would expect in the past. This Colts offense and this Steelers defense in particular, going head to head, I do not see how this comes out. Like, I don't see how the Colts aren't scoring 35 points in this game, D-Bro.
I don't see how you're stopping the Colts, whether it's JT running the ball, whether it's Pittman, whether it's that we've been waiting. All right, I don't want to forecast it, but I'm just going to say we have been waiting for it to percolate up to the surface. We have not gotten a Tyler Warren explosion game. Dude, this is it. Like, this is the matchup versus the Steelers. We just saw what Tucker Kraft did, and they've been terrible versus tight ends the entire freaking season. This could be the blow-up game for Tyler Warren.
Can I just add one last thing? So I'm looking at the Massey Peabody power ratings, which their ratings are a pretty good way to like indicate what the point spread should be. They have the Colts basically 3 points better than the Steelers on a neutral field. And then
that's really surprising.
If home field is worth 2 points, that's saying the Colts should maybe be favored by 1, and you're actually getting betting value with the Steelers.
I'm surprised by that. Maybe I'm just a square, but I'll be betting on the Colts this week. So
I'll be betting on the Colts to cover. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm also hopeful that the Colts win for selfish reasons. So let's go to the last game in the early slate here. Chargers at Titans. Fitz, who is the toughest player to rank in this matchup?
I actually thought the Chargers were pretty easy to rank. And then as far as the Titans, like Cam Ward is always slotting in at or near the bottom of the quarterback rankings. Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears are pretty close to each other in running back 3 range. For me, the toughest player to rank in this range was Shamir DK. Over the last 2 weeks, DK, he had 4 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown against the Patriots. Then 7 catches for 93 yards against the Colts last week. Wide receiver 11 in PPR scoring over the last 2 weeks. And he might be becoming a thing. Like, I don't want to be slow on the draw like I was with Arondé Gadsden II. And Calvin Ridley is probably going to miss a 3rd straight game with a hamstring injury. So there is opportunity for DK. On the other hand, he's in a pretty bad offense. So right now I've got him at wide receiver 45, but I'm thinking of maybe like sliding him up all the way into the top 40. Like, I actually saw DK play. He was at Wisconsin for most of his college career before he transferred to Florida for the end. He was a really exceptional kick returner, and I thought that was sort of going to be his primary NFL role. Like, he was good as a receiver, but just good, not exceptional. I thought maybe 4th or 5th receiver, kick return specialist, but I think I was wrong about that, and I totally missed the boat on him in Dynasty. Didn't get him in any rookie drafts, even though he was routinely available like in the 4th or 5th round. So yeah, maybe Shamir DK is becoming a thing.
Debra, who was tough for you to rank in this matchup? And I feel somewhat validated by this question because I stared at this matchup for a while and I couldn't think of a good angle to ask about. So I was like, well, let me just ask who was tough for these guys to rank. And then Fitz starts off with, well, it's pretty easy to rank all these guys and these guys. So I'm glad we were kind of on a similar page here. For you, Debra, was there anybody that you were questioning or, kind of having a little bit of difficulty in trying to rank?
I love Fitzy's call out of DK. Like, I was kind of back and forth on where I was. Now, I came in higher than Fitzy. I bumped him up to wide receiver 37. I like the matchup a ton. I like what he's done over the last 2 weeks. The guy for me was Quentin Johnston. And that's just, there's a possibility where he burns me. And that's where I don't know where to rank him at. Like, but if you look at his usage over the last few weeks and you look at the coverage matchup, I mean, I don't think he's fully healthy, and I want to be very clear about that. I've said that. I take Chargers injury reports with an absolute grain of salt. I don't believe half of what they list there. Quentin Johnston, since the hamstring injury, so since return to the lineup in week 7, he has only a 6.3% target share. You look at the chasm between that and his early season usage, it's monstrous, man. So, like, I don't think he's fully healthy. The other part about this is the coverage matchup is terrible for him. Like, even when he has been healthy, he's not who they go to versus too high coverage. In Tennessee, as bad of a secondary as they are, they're third highest in too high rate. But the thing that leaves the light on for me, like Quentin Johnston, if I rank him low and I kind of bury him because I don't think he's healthy, coverage matchup doesn't go his way. The other part is Tennessee Titans, their secondary is god-awful, and they're bad versus deep passing. So it's like QJ could get there on 2 targets down the field this week, but right now I've got him at wide receiver 38, and I'm like, is it too low? Am I crazy? I feel like I put him at this spot in the rankings, then he's going to go off for 2 long touchdowns, and I'm going to look like a fool. So I don't know what to do with QJ, but in a lot of leagues, if I had him, I would be sitting him.
Well, let me just ask you this, Debro, on Quentin Johnston. Like, do you think it's health, or do you think, like, that first month is now looking like a real outlier compared to the rest of his career, and maybe we were saying, oh, this is the breakout, and he's figured it out a little too quickly? I'm not saying that that's the opinion I have, but I'm curious if you're worried about that at all.
I'm not worried about that because I think what we saw at the beginning of the season was real. And the other thing about it is you look at the coverage matchups and stuff, like, I think Ladd was pressing and wasn't playing amazing. I think that Ladd, like, his reascension and reestablishment in this offense is real as well. But I think we're seeing QJ fall to the wayside. I think a lot of it is coverage matchups have been a lot of too high over the last few games, and he's not healthy. So I think that's a lot of it. So people want to buy low on QJ, that's fine. It's still going to be a mess moving forward. So
let's go to the late afternoon slate here. Saints at Rams. I think we can spend very little time on this one. This one has an even bigger spread than Packers-Panthers does. The main question, the only interesting angle here to me is, how are you ranking Saints players in Tyler Shuck's first career start, Fitz?
Really no differently. I've got Olave, wide receiver 20, Shaheed, wide receiver 37, Juwan Johnson, tight end 28. And I don't want to play Alvin Kamara anymore, RB 26. Like, he has 31 or fewer rushing yards in 4 straight games. 1 touchdown. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. And he's had 1 game with more than 30 or more receiving yards. So I think Shuck is a more aggressive downfield thrower than Rattler was. And it seemed like Spencer Rattler was a little more conscientious about avoiding negative plays than Shuck is, like sacks and interception. And Rattler did do a good job of, like, mistake avoidance. Shuck seems like a little more of a swashbuckler, which could be good or bad. Like, I think it nets out close to even. Quarterbacks who throw aggressively downfield, generally that's good for the pass catchers. But then again, sacks and interceptions are drive killers and take snaps and targets away from our pass catchers. So I'm seeing this as kind of a push.
Debro, you're the biggest Tyler Shuck fan I know. What do you think about this?
I love that you set that up that way. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm dropping
that's your
the
guy.
guys. I just, dude.
The Saints all last year, you were like, suck for Shuck. This should be the first pick in the draft.
Oh my gosh, man. What in the shuck are we doing here? I don't understand what Rattler did to lose the job. Like, I'm not saying he's played well or amazing, but he hasn't played
I can tell you what he did. He got drafted in the 5th round. That's it. If they were drafted, had the same draft capital,
it's true.
Like, I don't think Rattler did anything to lose the job on
dude, Tyler Shuck, no, dude, to Fitzy's point, yeah, he's a gunslinger, but he's got a pop gun. He's shooting blanks, dude. Like, I think he's going to sit here and try to pull some crazy moves out of his bag, but I'm lower on the guys. 1, it's the matchup, but 2, yeah, like, I just don't know. I mean, last week, and I know it's a small sample. I know it's his first game. I know all this stuff. This guy had an accurate throw rate of 43%. He had a catchable target rate of 65%. Like, those things are incredibly concerning, because if you can't even deliver catchable targets to the guys, they can't catch the ball. They can't score fantasy points. So, versus consensus, I don't know where I'm falling on these guys because I haven't looked at ECR yet, but Chris Olave, I've got at wide receiver 28. I've got Rashid Shaheed at wide receiver 42.
I'll pull up the consensus here quickly. Yeah, Olave is wide receiver 20 in ECR.
What, 20?
He's wide receiver 20 in ECR. Shaheed is 37.
Dude.
Then that's
20 is crazy.
Scoring.
A wide receiver 2? No, I can't do that.
We have a special offer for everyone. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. Download the Betting Pros app today. Use promo code FP1month. That's the number 1, not spelled out. Get access to tools like the Same Game Parlay tool, the Prop Bet Analyzer, and the Prize Picks Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Don't miss out. Try it free for 1 month now. Available on iOS and Android. Next game, Jaguars at Raiders. Initially, my question was about rookie receivers getting the post-bye bump, expectations for Travis Hunter. He coming off the best game of his career right before the bye week, 14 targets, 8 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. What are expectations for this week and the rest of the season? And then 10 minutes before we started recording, he was placed on IR, so he will miss at least 4 games. He had a knee injury suffered at practice. I believe it was on Thursday he suffered that knee injury. So this is a huge bummer. Having said that, we have to obviously pivot the conversation here because it's not even like we can't just ask about this week. This is 4 games. This is week 9, 10, 11, 12. Week 13 is the earliest he can be back. So, and maybe by the time you're listening to this, there'll be more information about the length of this recovery and what they expect there. But with Travis Hunter not there, Debro, I'll start with you. Any interest in bumping up Brian Thomas Jr. despite his struggles this year? Is Parker Washington the guy? Like, what are you doing with this offense without Travis Hunter?
I'm bumping up BTJ, and I think this is a good spot for him to get right. Like, since week 4, the Raiders secondary has given up the 8th most PPR points per target to perimeter wide receivers and the 9th most receiving yards per game. I'm not scared about any of their corners. Their run defense has actually been much improved over the last few games, so I don't think Travis Etienne's going to have a lot of room to rumble in this. So BTJ, I do think we're going to get a bounce-back game with Hunter now hitting the IR.
Fitz?
Yeah, where are you going to put him, Debro?
Woof. Good question.
Like I could see high-end wide receiver 2.
He's wide receiver 19 right now, but of course this hasn't, started to fully update from the Travis.
Wide receiver, I'm Fitzy live right now. I'm bumping him from wide receiver 20 to wide receiver 15.
Yeah, I'm going to put him at 13. I think
I think it's about right.
In between Pittman and Metcalf. I don't know. Is Parker Washington a thing, or is it like De'Ami Brown who's going to benefit too?
I think probably Parker, just because he's been targeted more, but I'm going to have to dive back into it for the primer. So my first initial lean would be Parker Washington because De'Ami's kind of been a ghost over the last few weeks, but I could be wrong after I go back to look at it.
Yeah, that's just a bummer about Travis Hunter with the usage bump that we saw for him and the Rams. And I was anxious to see whether that was just because the Rams were winning big and the Jaguars were in chase mode in that London game, 35-7 blowout, and Travis Hunter gets 14 targets. I thought he might be able to make a serious push, though, and unfortunately we're going to have to wait to find out.
Side note on this, all those BTJ's trade rumors, that ain't happening now. Now with Hunter out. Nope.
Let's go to Chiefs at Bills. Obviously, one of the games of the year. This is one that everybody circles when the schedule drops in May every year. Really never disappoints, whether it's regular season or postseason. These games are always great. So I'll just keep this one simple. Fitz, pick one player who's ranked too high in this matchup in consensus rankings and one player who is ranked too low. All
right, I'll start with the too low. Rashee Rice, ECR wide receiver 6. I have him at wide receiver 4. He's already been pretty heavily involved in his first 2 games back. 16 catches on 19 targets plus 2 rushing attempts. Heavy red zone usage. So, yeah, wide receiver 4. Too high. I'm a little below consensus on Brashard Smith, and I am starting to think that maybe the opportunity we think Brashard has as the Chiefs' primary pass-catching back might be a mirage. And why do I think that? It's because of Rashee Rice. Rice is a short area receiver. His average depth of target for his career, it's 4.6 yards. This year, 2.4 yards in 2 games. And with Chiefs head coach Andy Reid using Rice on all the short stuff, there's just not much need for a running back to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield for this team. So in Rice's first game back, Smith did have a season-high 5 catches for 42 yards, but Rice only played 41% of the snaps. Smith played the highest snap count of the season, 28, because the Chiefs were winning in a blowout over the Raiders, and I think the blowout was kind of why he got snaps and targets. Then last week, Rice was back to 86% of the snaps. Brashard Smith played 9 offensive snaps and saw 0 targets. I think the presence of Rashee Rice might keep Brashard Smith from becoming a thing.
Debra, same question. One player too high, one player too low.
Fitzy, I love you so freaking much. I toyed with the idea of bringing up Rashee Rice so much. I love that you led off with that. And just for everybody out there, in the 2 games that Rashee Rice has been back, he is the wide receiver 1 in fantasy points per game. He has averaged 24.4 PPR points per game. So if he keeps that, like, yes, we are ranking him too low, but the other guy I'll mention here is I think we're too high on Keon Coleman, and I know he's at wide receiver 45. After week 2, here's his weekly finishes. Wide receiver 76, 69, 50. Oh, look, there's 43, 76, and 57. And the coverage matchup is horrible for him. The Chiefs had the 6th highest too high rate. Against too high, if you take out the first week, which is a massive outlier for the rest of the season for Keon Coleman, he has a 16% target per route run rate and 0.95 yards per route run against too high. Keon Coleman, he's going to be outside my top 50.
I want to ask a second question on this game just because it's such a fun game, just betting it. Kansas City is laying 2 points in Buffalo. The total, it was 52. It's actually up to 52.5 on Hard Rock Bet. How are you betting those numbers, D-Bro?
I'm staying away from the freaking spread, and I kind of want to take the under on this, man. Like, I think, like, I just get a feeling this game, like, this is also, again, Fitzy talks about betting rules. Like, when we get these totals up in the 50s, there's so much that can go wrong on these things. And so I actually, if I'm staying away from both of them, but if I had to bet one of these as an official bet, I'd take the under on the total.
Fitz?
Yeah, I agree with D-Bro. I'm staying away from the total, although I don't think it's going to disappoint with regard to scoring. But if you want to give me the Buffalo Bills as a home underdog, that is an auto bet for me. I am betting the Bills.
Let's go to Sunday Night Football here. Seahawks at Commanders. How are you guys approaching the Seattle backfield coming out of the bye? Where are Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet ranked for you guys respectively? Fitz, starting with you.
I have Walker running back 23, Charbonnet running back 28. It's just a messy split, and I should probably have them right next to each other, but I just think Walker is the better player.
D-Bro?
I legit have them back-to-back at 23 and 24. Dude, Ken Walker's season has been just capsized by the fact that he's not getting any red zone usage. It's all the touchdowns that is propping up Zach Charbonnet, and it's all not scoring any touchdowns for Kenneth Walker that's crushing him, man. Like, he's RB42 since week 4. He's RB42 in fantasy points per game because he's not scoring any touchdowns. He's not getting any. Dude, he has only 8 of 23 possible red zone carries right now. It's horrible, and he is clearly the more efficient player. I wish somebody in the media for Seattle would ask the coaching staff, why are you deploying the backfield the way that you are and in the manner that you are? Because I would be fascinated to hear the answer. Like, I don't understand it when you look at both of these guys and you clearly can turn on the film and one of them is clearly outplaying the other, but we get in the red zone and it's like, nah, we're going to give the ball to Sharps.
Kenneth Walker is RB23 and Zach Charbonnet is RB28 in the consensus rankings. So they're both in that annoying range of difficult decision to make here. I think Seattle wins this game pretty handedly. So
same.
I'm hoping that they both get a lot of opportunities with the Seahawks having a lead. We'll see if that actually ends up panning out that way. But I think Seattle's going to win this game kind of running away. So hopefully that means good points for both of them. I think we can move on to Monday Night Football here. Last game on the slate, Cardinals at Cowboys. This is the highest total of the week. It is at 54 on Hard Rock Bet is the total, which is enormous. And I was surprised that it was higher than Chiefs Bills, honestly. If I forced you guys to pick one Arizona Cardinal to rank extra aggressively this week, who would you pick? And we'll start with you, D-Bro.
I'm going to go Bam Knight, man. And this is not because I love Bam Knight. This is because the Cowboys cannot. One of the greatest tricks the Green Bay Packers have ever pulled on anybody in the history of mankind was convincing Jerry Jones that Kenny Clark could be the reason that their run defense could be better. Because it's been wondrous to see, because they're still terrible. The Cowboys' run defense is still god-awful. Like, they're giving up the 4th most rushing yards per game, the 2nd highest explosive run rate. I could rattle off every single statistic that freaking matters for run defenses, and the Cowboys are bottom 12 in all of them. So if you're telling me we're living in a world where Bam Knight goes for 100 yards and he gets 2 touchdowns, I will not be surprised. I think the touchdown equity is more of what I'd lean on here. And right now I've got him at RB 19. If you tell me he finishes the week as a top 15 running back, I would not be shocked.
Fitz, I know we discussed Knight a little bit yesterday on the Thursday show with you, me, and Jake Seeley already. Would he have been your pick here as well?
He would have been my pick too. Well, I suppose you probably would not let me take Trey McBride as far as ranking extra aggressively.
Well, I was going to ask, how aggressively can you rank the number 1 tight end?
Yeah, exactly. No more aggressively than number 1, so I guess that's impossible.
I guess you could rank him aggressively in flex rankings. Not that you would be starting him at tight end regardless, but you could make the case like, I have him ranked, top 20 in flex or something like that. If you wanted to make the case, I'll allow it.
Yeah. No, it's Bam Knight, and maybe he's more of a lead back this week than a timeshare guy. And if he's the lead back in this matchup against a Dallas defense that's given up the 5th most rushing yards and 4th most fantasy points to running backs, then yeah, he might have a chance at an RB1 finish.
Where did you say you were ranking him, Fitz?
So right now I've got him at RB 19, but I have been thinking about moving him ahead of J.K. Dobbins and Travis Etienne.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the right call. I'm moving him up right now.
Go ahead.
Bam Knight versus Jalen Warren, Fitzy.
I'm still going to Warren ahead.
Okay. I think it's an interesting conversation. Him and Jalen Warren and Kareem Hunt. That sentence made me feel like I wanted to throw up.
I was going to say what would be interesting, Fitz, to circle back to an earlier conversation, Bam Knight or TreVeyon Henderson if Rhamondre is out.
Yeah. Probably Bam, just because I don't know what Jennings is kind of a wild card there for the Patriots.
Mike Vrabel says hi.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Best of luck to everybody here in week 9. And if you're listening to this and it's still Friday, definitely enjoy Halloween. It's a fun, rare opportunity when you get a holiday on a Friday or a Saturday. So go take advantage if you are so inclined. For Debro / Lex Luthor and Fitz / the wrestler, I'm Ryan Wormeli / Clark Kent. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for listening.